great crowd. Thank you all so much for coming. We're not outside of the patio with overflow people this time, so that's good news. How many first timers do we have here? Awesome. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Terry Diamond. For those of you who don't know, I'm the host of today's seminar. Just a couple things before we get started. On the table in front of you, you have some handouts, my brochure with seminar schedule for the remainder of the year. When I'm thinking about that, I'm going to be sending out an email, a survey, to talk about subjects for next year. So if you'd like to have some input as to what we talk about next year, please fill out the survey. There's some note paper for you to write on, there's pens, papers, and the most importantly, at the bottom of the stack, there's an evaluation, a feedback form that I'd love for you to fill out, because the more you tell me about what you hear, what you see, what you need, I can continue to grow our seminars. So please fill those out. I also do a $50 gift card drawing for everybody that turned those in. Well, everybody doesn't get $50, just one person. Just want to make sure that's clear. Please turn off your phones, make sure you silence them. If you need the restrooms, they're out the door to the right. Okay? Once again, my name is Terry Diamond, and I'm a realtor with Berkshire Hathaway. Okay? Who here knows at least a dozen realtors? Okay. That we're all over the place, okay? But I want to tell you a little bit about why I'm different. I'm a senior real estate specialist, which is a common designation, but more importantly, I'm a certified senior housing professional. That designation takes about 6 months of education and research, plus ongoing research and training to really serve the senior market. That is my passion, that is what I do. I'm an educator, I'm an advocate, and then my day job is a realtor. Why do I do these seminars? Because there's so much information that needs to be brought out to the community, and as you can see from all being here, it's a really great tool for you guys to use. So whatever you need, you can call me and I can put you in touch with anybody, well, not with anybody, but resources that you need. A couple of people in the audience have called me recently just saying, how do I do this? And if I don't know, I'll find out. So it's really great that you're here, that I get to meet you, and I can help serve you going forward in whatever capacity, whether it's real estate or just needs that you have. Let's see, we're all here to educate you on downsizing. I'm not here, and Karen's not here to try to sell you something. It's not a sales presentation, but we are here if you need anything. We will go until noon. We'll have a question and answer period after, so if anybody has any questions, about 11:30 or so, or whenever Karen's done presenting, we'll open it up for questions and answers until noon or whatever comes first. Okay, any questions so far before we get started? Nope, we're ready. So in my world of real estate, when people talk about downsizing, they generally mean moving to a smaller house or moving to a senior community or moving closer to their family. Whether it's for financial reasons or they want to reduce their carbon footprint or to simplify their lives, there's a lot of reasons people want to downsize. Now, would I like all of you to sell your house and buy another one? Yes, I can do that. But there's lots of good reasons to downsize, and that's what we're really here to talk about today, whether you're moving or whether you just want to simplify your life. Downsizing can be a significant challenge. It presents a lot of challenges, a lot of opportunities. It's a topic that touches many aspects of our lives, from decluttering our physical space to refining many aspects. Throughout the seminar, we'll delve into various issues of downsizing, including the emotional, the logistical, and the financial dimensions. So I looked up the definition of downsizing on the internet, and it says, a permanent reduction of company's labor force through the elimination of unproductive workers or divisions. Okay. So I kind of translated it into personal. So I said a permanent reduction of unnecessary or unused possessions, organizing belongings more efficiently, and creating a more minimalist environment. So it's kind of the same thing, just looking at it in a different perspective. So we live in a world where we accumulate things. Okay, lots of things. And I imagine a lot of you have lived where you are for many, many years and you have a lot of stuff. So, over time, the things that we've collected not only take up physical space, but they take up mental space, okay? And it's just really important that you're not overwhelmed with everything. Actually, you probably are overwhelmed, which is why you're here. But downsizing really helps clear your space and your mind. And then, anybody here, it'll take an hour or two to downsize their home? Yeah, everybody laughs. A day or two, maybe a week or two. It's a long, lengthy process. It can take weeks, and oftentimes it's a month-long process, months-long process. So Karen's here to help you cover all that stuff. For those of you who don't know her, her name is Karen Martin. You may have seen her at some of my past seminars. She's the owner and founder of Curated Transitions, and she's going to talk to you about downsizing. Thank you. You're welcome.
Hi, everybody. I'm so glad you're here. And obviously, is this working? Okay. My name is Karen, and I have a company called Curated Transitions. And actually, after that really nice introduction, I could probably just leave and you guys will be okay. Because Terry did it all. She knows everything about it. We've had lots of conversations about it. But we are here to talk about downsizing. And so I'd love to get to know the room. I've met a lot of you before at previous seminars. But who's been in your house for 10 years? Keep your hands up. 20 years? 30 years? 40 years? Anybody 40 years?
Yeah.
40 years, wow. 50 years? You've been in your house for 50 years, how long?
Actually longer than 50 because it was my family's home. But
Oh.
together we've been there around 50 years.
Wow. Well, you get the prize. And the prize today is a book written by my friend Matt Paxton. And he is the MC of the show called Legacy List. And you may also have seen the show called Hoarders. This is not about hoarding. This is about losing the stuff, but keeping the things that tell your story. And downsizing does not have to be losing yourself. We want to tell your story when we're downsizing, but we might not need all of the accoutrements to tell your story. So I'm sorry to add clutter to your life, but it is a really interesting read. And how many of you think that downsizing is so stressful that, am I in the way? That you might feel like a deer caught in headlights. And maybe you feel stuck and you can't really move forward. Many of our clients tell us that they have decision overwhelm, and the lack of clarity really prevents them from taking the next steps to get to your next best chapter. And we really want you to cut yourself some slack. As a professional downsizer, you can do this, but nobody expects you to do it by yourself. You're gonna need some help, and these are really legitimate stressors. So give yourself a little grace on that. 80 hours. This is probably close to the lower end of the average for our clients that we spend with them when we're doing a downsizing job with them. That's a staff hours. And why is it 80 hours? Well, there's a lot of things to consider, and these are just a few of them. When we help people downsize, we consider so many things that it does take some time. But it's not rocket science. We do curate a solution. Did you get it? Curated transition. We do, everyone's situation is different, and we do curate a solution for you. But it's not rocket science, and it really just takes time. But before coming to us, our clients often tell us that they have made some pretty common mistakes, and we've compiled them together. And probably the thing that causes the most anxiety for our clients is the feeling that they have to go through every nook and cranny of their current home that they've been in for 50 plus years and sort and declutter every nook and cranny. And we're here to tell you that, yes, you can do that, But that usually creates a block because it's not just stuff. There's a lot of emotional attachment to that birthday card you got from Aunt Zelda in 1964. There's stuff, and it's hard to throw that away. And it's hard to move forward. You just don't know what to do. And so we're gonna suggest that you look at areas in your home that you spend the most amount of time in and just focus on decluttering those areas. Maybe within 3 feet of where you usually spend your time. Maybe in the den in your favorite chair. What's around you that needs some attention? Maybe in the areas that you spend in the kitchen, the time that you spend in the kitchen, what's around you there? It's, we go to the same places in our homes quite often. And those are the areas we want you to spend sorting and decluttering. And we'll help you with that. How many of you have small batches of donations sitting in your car right now that you're about to drop off at the charity shop, but maybe they've been there for a few days, months? I actually had a client that took the batches out of her car to get her car washed and then put them back in and then did it again. So we think that, first of all, Santa Barbara is one of the most generous places, and we love that. We love to donate to all of the charities in town, and we love that you do too. But we think that your time and efforts are much better spent making decisions at home. So we suggest that you put a box, not in a tripping place, but in a central location in your house, and just drop your donations in there. And when that box gets full, put it in an out of the way place and get another box and do that again and again. And we'll make sure that your donations get to the right charity shop, and we'll take care of all that for you. And you can focus on the decluttering of the close areas that you are going to be working on. And I'm willing to bet that you guys have a lot of pieces of furniture that are super important and maybe were kind of expensive some years ago. And you're kind of concerned that you can't take your pieces with you to your newly downsized home, and you're concerned that you're not going to get your financial investment out of those pieces. And maybe you're spending time on the internet to see if you're gonna find someone that's gonna pay you the $1,000 that you paid for that dining table. But did you know that you can amortize your enjoyment out of each piece in your house? And it's really easy. And when I explain this to my clients, they have a much easier time letting go of the pieces that they know they just can't take with them. So let's just take an example. It's a really easy math problem. Stay with me on this. Let's say 20 years ago, you bought a beautiful dining table and you spent 20 years enjoying family dinners and friends and family over and laughter, and you spent $1,000 on that dining table. Well, if you divide that dining table, $1,000 by 20 years, that comes to $50 a year. That's a deal. $50 a year to enjoy that dining table? Now you know you've spent $50 a year, and it's a lot easier to let that go. Or you might be able to sell it for $50. And then you've made money on that dining table, which would be really cool, right? And how many of you are so stressed out that you're thinking about putting stuff in storage and just dealing with it later and just punting? Well, storage has a place in downsizing, a very small space, and we're going to talk about it later. But I would strongly urge you not to delay your decisions. I would strongly urge you to try not to put things in storage. And the reason why is because storage is expensive. And let's say you do put some things in storage and you spend $500 a month, because that's pretty much the going average for a good sized storage unit, if you can find one here. $500 a month, that adds up. A year goes by fast, that's $6,000, and maybe it's 2 years. And then that's $12,000. That adds up, and that just adds expense. So we want to minimize your stress and the financial burden and make it easier on you by starting early. Let's start early and not delay our decisions. We'll start early. We're going to stop shopping. We're going to stop going to Costco and buying giant packages of toilet paper. We are just not going to have the room to store those giant packages of toilet paper. So use what you have and then buy a little bit smaller the next time you think you might need to restock. But also, maybe you're thinking about downsizing and you're also thinking about buying a huge recliner right now. But maybe that recliner isn't gonna fit in your newly downsized home. But if you purchase that recliner right now, you're gonna feel obligated to take that with you and take up all the real estate in your new living room. So wait on the big purchases. And now tell your friends and family. They're gonna be super supportive. And they might even be the willing recipient of some items that are not gonna go with you. Like those Yadros and Hummels. You can't take them all. And tell your adult children, it's time to get their yearbooks out of the closet. And then you can start culling your spaces. And a good place to start, a really easy place to start, is your everything drawer or your silverware drawer. I'm willing to bet that there are some chopsticks in there that don't match. And maybe you have quite a few wine openers that you don't need. I mean, we do, and we don't even drink wine. But tackle your pantry. You know, that's you're likely not to have as big of a pantry in your new house. And tackle your pantry. There's some low-hanging fruit in there. There's a lot of things in your pantry. I bet everybody has expired foods in your pantry. That takes about 15 minutes. Get the expired foods out, and then also, while you're in there, pick that weird thing you bought at Trader Joe's or Whole Foods and prepare it. Because you thought you might like to eat that, so try it. And eat the food you have while you're thinking about downsizing. And if you don't want to eat it, and it's not expired, let us know and we'll take it and donate it to the food bank. And now is a really good time to start looking around your house, because we started early, so we're still in the early phases of it all. Look around your house for your favorite things, and if they're not too heavy, carry them to a central location around your house. Maybe your dining room table, because it's not gonna fit in your next place. Put your favorite things, the things that tell your story, the things that are your souvenirs of life. Maybe they're art and antiques, maybe they're souvenirs from trips, maybe they're work accolades. Whatever tells your story, we want to tell that story. We want to see it all in one place. Just start thinking about that stuff. And optimally, when we're downsizing and we're starting to think about downsizing, it's time to start thinking about where you might like to go and what you might like to have in the amenities department and how many bedrooms and what your kitchen looks like and all of that. And real estate professionals like Terry will give you a floor plan, and so will senior community marketing directors give you a floor plan. But these are loose floor plans. And when you have a senior move manager or professional downsizer like Curated Transitions, we're gonna go into these places and we're gonna measure every inch of these new places. And we're gonna know how low the windows go and where the cable hookup is. And probably the most important thing is where the thermostat control is, because it's always in the worst place. And that really limits sometimes how we're gonna put in maybe a front hall cabinet or a hall tree because of the thermostat. But we're gonna know every inch of your new house, and we're gonna help you fit the current belongings that you wanna take into your new house and get the maximum space for that, all the while preserving the air and the space so you can navigate really comfortably throughout that house. And maybe you don't need a walker now, and maybe you never will, I hope, but you want to definitely have enough space so that your friends who are on walkers can get through your house. It's always important to make decisions before you move. And here's what I would suggest. This is probably the best takeaway. You should get a pen and write this down. Focus on the things you want to keep and not the other way around. It's a much more joyful way of looking at your new best chapter. Focus on the things you want to take with you, not the things that are in the back of your closet or up in a cabinet that have not been in your lifestyle and don't even fit in your lifestyle. Focus on the things you want to keep. And I promise you, 99 times out of 100, if you find that you missed something that you discarded and you later want it, you're probably going to be able to find something similar to take that place within 20 minutes drive of your new home or online, because Amazon. So focus on the things you want to keep, that's going to be the theme of our whole event today, is to look at everything with joy and look at our future as the things that we want and not the things we're leaving behind. Bless you. And according to the Art magazine, most downsizers move to a home that is 20% the size of their current home. That's an 80% reduction. There's also another little fun fact from Art magazine, and that is that we Americans wear about 8% of our wardrobes. Even if we have a giant wardrobe, we're wearing about 8% of that. If we have a small wardrobe, we're still wearing only about 8%. Well, we're not going to downsize you to 92% less of your clothes, but we are going to keep that in mind because you're going to have less space. And you may already be living in a downsized situation in your current larger home. Because our kids are grown and flown, we're not in their bedrooms. Chances are we're not entertaining the way we used to. So we maybe aren't even in that dining room, on that dining room table. And we may not be even in our kitchens as much. We're probably preparing less foods. So we're in maybe our den or our office, and we might even be downsized within our current big homes already. So that'll make it easier when you give me a call. We like to think about downsizing as a rowboat, and everybody's rowboat is a little bit different, but if you only had a small rowboat and a short time to grab the most important things in your life, what would they be? And if you have only a short time to row out to downsize or to island, it's time to be deliberate about what is going to go in there and think about what's the most important thing to you. And then give yourself permission to only go on one trip and leave the rest. It's very liberating. This is the time of the talk when everybody asks me, what do I do with my Hummels or my Yadros or my 4 sets of china from my aunt and my grandmother or my mother and the neighbor? And we like to think about our collections in terms of a rowboat. There's formal collections like china and silver and art, and then there's informal collections that you might not even think about it as a collection, like art supplies or other hobby supplies or holiday decorations. And if you could apply the rowboat rule to that, you're going to be very successful in your new home. You're not going to have room for all those Christmas decorations or that giant Christmas tree that's in the garage right now. You're just not. And there is no such thing as the collectibles police that is going to come and knock on your door and give you a ticket and a fine if you decide to break apart some sets and you decide to take 4 place settings of that beautiful china that's been sitting in a cabinet for generations. And maybe you've got to take a setting you've got 12 place settings, just take 4. Make those your everyday dishes. I mean, come on, what are you waiting for? It's there, enjoy it. But we want you to keep what you love and tell your story. Some of the biggest mistakes that our clients make can actually have health implications, and one of them is attempting to handle everything by yourself. Things are heavy, and our lives are much more complicated than they were back in the day when everything we owned fit in the back of our friend's pickup truck or station wagon. And it's true. I mean, we're busy. We're very busy. And the same thing goes with our friends who might have been driving that pickup truck or station wagon. Things are heavy for them too, and they're busy. Their lives are complicated. Expecting them to help you completely or do it for you really adds a level of stress to a relationship. So our clients tell us that they think of us as their local daughters who are just focused on them. And we love to be that local daughter. Everybody's my mom and dad, because I've moved my mom and dad many times. So that's how I got involved in this business. But also, choosing the lowest cost mover or lowest cost anything that you can find usually backfires. And I would highly recommend you listen to everybody's referrals for the right mover, because if it's worth moving, it's worth moving correctly, and it's worth getting there in one piece. Also, the biggest mistake is procrastinating, which is a decision. If you procrastinate, your options start to dry up. And we know that you're here because you want to have an active role in your next chapter. So don't procrastinate because you don't want those options to dry up for you. You want to focus on the future and what you want to take with you. So you don't have a lot of control over how much moving is going to cost and things like that, but you can be deliberate in your energy and the energy that you spend. And I don't even know what to do. I don't even know how to do that. Hold on one second here. I don't even know what to do. It's on do not disturb. So there. Okay. It's probably Google trying to get me to pay more or something. I don't know. But you want to focus on the things that are going to go with you. And you want to definitely not move things you don't have space for. We have seen our clients have the last minute grab at the last moment, and they take some things that are very large and don't fit into their new homes. And then we get to the new homes, and there has to be a snap decision made on these items. And maybe they would have sent them to their adult children or given them to a friend. And maybe they have to pay the mover to take things back to their house. So it just adds expense. We're gonna help you figure out what you can take and what will fit. And it's gonna be what you want. It's not gonna be what we want you to have. It's gonna be what you want. And now, I know I mentioned this earlier, but you know, it's about 15 minutes later. So now it's time to give your adult children a firm deadline to pick up their yearbooks. Make sure that you're super firm with that, because you are not obligated to house their souvenirs of their childhood in your new house. You're just not gonna have room, and it's not your job. You wanna work with an experienced downsizing company to help you identify items of value, and also the best way to process those items. Via a consignment, or an estate sale, or donation. We know all the best places to take everything, and all the best ways of getting the most, maybe the $50 out of your dining table. And if you really want to, you can pack some of your own boxes. It's really cathartic. I love packing boxes, actually. But don't waste money moving things that are not in your current life, like old technology. You probably have an old cell phone or laptop or desktop in your garage or back of a closet gathering dust. Don't take those with you. We'll get them wiped and we'll get them donated or recycled. Don't take cleaning products. Maybe you take a bottle of Windex, but don't take all your cleaning products. The chances are you're gonna have a housekeeper. If you're moving to a senior community, you're definitely gonna have a housekeeper that brings their own cleaning supplies. And if you're not moving to a senior community, but you are downsizing and you don't have a housekeeper who brings her own cleaning supplies, let me know, because I got a bunch, and they're fantastic housekeepers. And I don't wanna store that in my house. Tools, we're probably not gonna be doing too much building. There might be one or two of you that does, but you're gonna hire a handyman, and I have many highly qualified handymen that are reasonable, that will come and build you whatever you want. And then here's something that people don't really think about. I bet you have a lot of smiling photos of family and friends framed around your house right now in your larger home. And they probably look great. But when we downsize to about 20% of our current space and we take all these photos, it can end up looking a little bit more crowded and a little bit more claustrophobic. So think about the most important pictures. And then we're gonna put the rest in a box, and you can rotate them. You can do a rotating exhibit of like every 3 months, or whatever you want, or we can digitize them for you. But that's a conversation for another day. Also, don't go to the grocery store and stock up on food before you move. and then have the mover move the food. I have had a lot of clients do this. And they've moved into senior communities, and the senior communities have great food. And all the food that they have to bring, they're just not gonna have that space in your pantry, in your new home. And why do you wanna pay a mover to move your food? Just take snacks and eat the food you have. Okay, we're gonna talk about storage now. So, storage is really only okay. I mean, you could do it if you want, I'm not gonna stop you, but storage is really only advised for very limited time. Like if you know your house is sold and you have to move, so you're gonna move to a temporary house until your downsized home is ready. Well, maybe you have to store some things because you're moving into an Airbnb and it's already furnished. Or if your career requires that you hold on to records, that's something that you might have to do. But maybe for holiday decorations too, and for the holiday decorations, put your stuff in storage, and then when it's time to decorate, take it all out of storage and bring it over to your new house and decorate with it. And then the stuff that you don't end up using because you're not gonna have the space for it, put it back in the car and take it to donation or to your friend's house or your kids. And that's a short term, but please don't think of storage as a long-term option. This is an actual storage unit of a client off of Patterson, and you can't really tell, but this is a giant storage unit. It had a front door, garage door, double, and then a back garage door. It went all the way through the building. The stuff was stacked to the ceiling. My client, oh, she was so sweet and so distraught over the storage unit, hadn't been there for over 10 years. And she would only admit to the fact that she had it for 10 years, but I know she had it longer. And she got a deal on this storage unit because it's a double storage unit. It was $600 a month. Do the math. $600 a month. When we opened that storage unit, it was covered in ash because the fires that we've had over the years, the ash blows in there, and you know that ash is really difficult to get off. And everything in there was just junk, really. It all went to the dump. This TV, that's obsolete. There's Coke bottles in there that need to be recycled. And who puts a tire in a storage unit? If you look at those boxes, they're not stacked well. Everything in that bottom box was smashed. And there were rodent holes in there. It's just things do not age well in storage unit. And that client had to pay us to go through. You couldn't walk in there. We had to pull everything out onto the driveway. And everything went to the dump except for maybe about 10% of it that went to donation, and she took nothing. So she paid a hauler, she paid us, and she paid $72,000 that she'll admit to for 10 years of storage. That's a lot of money. And this is a delayed decision, only gets more expensive. So don't delay your decisions. Or do if you want, but it's expensive. And then I'm gonna just sort of review what we talked about. Professional downsizers are gonna help you create and review a floor plan with the inventory of the furniture that you wanna take and or that you wanna purchase. And everything will fit into your new house. And we're gonna help you with decluttering and also donations. We're gonna help you, once you declutter, it's a lot easier to see, sort of like the forest for the trees. You can absolutely see what you wanna take once things are getting decluttered. And we're gonna help you determine the best packing options, and we're gonna pack you if you want us to. We're gonna manage the move day, every aspect of it, including the mover. We're gonna manage how they load the truck and how they unload the truck. We're gonna unpack you, put everything away, set up your new home, take away all the moving materials, and we're gonna hang your pictures. And at the end of it, we're gonna label every cabinet so you're gonna know where everything is that night. And we're gonna be able to refer you to customized services like movers, haulers. I even had a client last month ask me for a lawyer. And that was a new one, but he got a lawyer and all of his problems were solved. We also have wonderful resources for selling your items like estate sales and estate auctions and consignment. This is how we work. That's me. And you're gonna call me, and it's gonna be me or one of my project managers. We're gonna come over and we're gonna talk about your situation, and we're gonna curate a solution for you. We're gonna create a custom plan, and the custom plan is gonna consist of a timeline, and at the end of it, you're gonna have clarity. You're gonna know what you need to do to move forward, and you're gonna have a partner and support in the process. And we're gonna hold your hand through the whole thing, and it's a lot of fun actually. My clients tell us it's like the Karen show, or the Karen and Amy show, or the Karen and Hannah show, or any of my other team members. They're just lovely, lovely ladies. That's it. Thank you so much for listening to me. And I just wanted you all to know that in your folders, I have put a couple of things in here that might be helpful. There's a checklist of vital documents, and also a how to downsize in 6 months without losing your mind. And is there a third one? Yes, sir. The last day, right before moving, what to pack in your to-go bag. This is a really important checklist of things to take in your to-go bag. And also, if you'd like, I have these. It's really clutter, though. I hate to give you guys clutter, but it's a downsizing kit. It consists of a Trader Joe's bag for things that are going to go to the shredder, and a black bag for garbage, and a clear bag for donations. And there's a couple of checklists in there if you want to come up and grab those. And does anybody have any questions? Hi, Jessica.
I want to know who here will admit that they have a storage unit. Okay. That was bold after that presentation. I was wondering if you could give a range of the hourly cost of professional downsizing expert services. I just don't even have a concept of what.
Sure. So an average move, let's say from a big house to a 1-bedroom, is going to be starting at about $6,000, and it can go up from there depending upon. It just takes time. And my company, my services, we don't make any money off of any referrals. We will just solve your problem. We just charge for our time. So we're not in it to get a commission from anybody. We just want to solve your problems.
Hi, I have a friend who was going to come today, but she can't. She has spent, I think she's 70, she has spent a lot of time decluttering her condo. And she wonders if there's some way you could address the exhaustion that surfaces, and she's experienced a lot of emotional distress.
It is a lot of emotional distress. I mean, I think that's what I've been talking about the whole day. You don't have to do it yourself, and it's exhausting because it's all personal stuff. It's hard to make the decision about the birthday cards that you received, or maybe I had a client who showed me, she was so sweet. She was a widow, and she was just really mourning her husband, but she showed me a receipt. It was a tiny little piece of paper from 1955 of a dinner reservation that they had, and it was just the sweetest thing. But what was she gonna do with it? You know, she didn't know what to do with it. She'd had it forever and didn't know it was even in that drawer. And then she pulled it out. She said, "Oh, this is from 1955." So we're here to help you, hold your hand through this. It's a lot more fun when you're doing it with somebody else, and it is exhausting.
Hi, just curious, I'm thinking about moving into a retirement facility, and you have to sort of wait until they have a unit for you, and then go in or choose whether you want the unit or not. In the meantime, I can try to downsize, but that's 2 different time periods. How do you work that?
That's a really good question. What's your name?
Jerry.
Hi, Jerry. So Jerry's thinking about moving into a retirement community, and she's on the waiting list, and so she just doesn't know when that's gonna come available for her, and she's thinking about downsizing in the process while she's waiting, and she just doesn't know how she's gonna melt the 2 time periods. And it's always a good idea to start downsizing and start focusing on your future, always. But when you receive notice that you're gonna get your new unit, whatever that may be, whether 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom or whatever it is, then, and call us and we'll help you declutter and plan for it. But then we'll put a timeline. We'll start with your move day, and then we'll work backwards from there.
I think just kind of to support what you were just saying is, you start with the paper goods. You start with those little imitations that don't mean any. You gotta go through layers. Every house is layers.
Oh, believe me, I'm doing it, but then I go out and buy other stuff.
You gotta get bothered with your piles, which, like Karen has a point, it's always the paper goods, the paper documents, the paper whatever, that's always the hardest.
The paper trail
Yeah.
is the hardest,
Yeah.
and it is. But if that stuff is important to you, there's a lot of really interesting ways of preserving those things, if that's important to you. And we work with digitizing companies in town and also in LA to create a digital record of what's super important to you. And there's also a company called Archive, ARTKIVE, and we can show, and it's easy to do, actually. If you can use your cell phone, you can make an archive and then get rid of it. And then it's just a digital copy and you can send it to anybody. And it's a lot of fun. That's just in your spare time, Jerry.
I'm a touchy-feely with those things.
How many moves have you done for people over the years?
Well, I officially started my business in 2017, as Jessica will tell you. But it all started with my mom, who had dementia in the early 2000s, and there really wasn't, this industry was in its infancy. There wasn't a me, and she was in Chicago. And after that, and I was here with twin babies. And we moved her, my sister and I moved her. We moved her 3 times, and there wasn't a me to do that. And after that, I became the de facto expert to all my friends. Which is funny because I didn't think I was really an expert on anything, but downsizing I really am the expert on. I moved so many of my friends' parents, and then I just thought, this is really tiring, and it would be nice if I got a little bit of remuneration, put a little spring in my step. So in 2017, I started this business. Really, I thought I was just an organizer. I didn't even know it was a thing. And then I joined the National Association of Senior and Specialty Move Managers on a whim. I didn't even know it was a thing. And my business just took off from there. And we have a code of ethics, which is why I feel it's a conflict of interest to sell my clients things and make a profit from it. So I feel like I'm just here to solve your problem. And you're gonna pay me for my time to do that. That's all. We have a strong code of ethics, and I'm happy to send it to you, but we live by that. And every year we have a conference, and we meet. Well, we're meeting in Kansas City in the beginning of November, and I'm really excited about it because it just reaffirms the code of ethics, and it reaffirms our business practices, the best business practices, and we're really passionate about it. We're the only ones that belong to the National Association of Senior and Specialty Move Managers in town.
More questions?
I know you've
Oh,
got
yeah.
one, you always have one. Right.
I'm here today not to downsize to move, because I hope to stay in our home until the end, but to relieve that possibility for our kids. We've done all the donations, 2 or 3 years worth, cleared the whole basement out. We've offered things to the families. The grandkids have picked up items, particularly granddaughters with jewelry. What I'm looking at presently is how to find a good, reliable auction or consignment places in town for some of the more valuable things that we have that we can turn that into cash, put it into investment accounts, so when the time comes and they inherit, they don't have to put up with huge collections and large pieces of furniture. It'll go to them in investment accounts. How do I best determine auction consignment places that are reliable?
That's a really good question. Did everybody hear that?
Yes.
Okay, that's a really long question, and maybe that could be a whole topic for another day. However, what do you want?
I just wanted to have, like, give some thought to it for specifics, like other options. Because sometimes people have things of value and they don't necessarily need the cash, but they get the tax write-off. There's a woman in town called Elizabeth Stewart, and she's been doing this for over 60 years. She is one of the good starting points here in town, and we're lucky to have her because she's like very sophisticated and 1 out of 30 certified tax consultants in the United States. So that's one, but I'm sure that locally, Karen knows all the rest of them.
I do. Call me. I know all of them. But let me just set your expectations. And this is part of what we do, is we really have to be the bearer or the lower of your expectation. You're not gonna get rich to a point where you're gonna be able to, I mean, unless you have a Matisse or a Picasso or some unbelievable piece of art in your house, you're not gonna, you might get a few $100, but you're not gonna make enough to make like a trust for the whole family that's gonna go down through the years. It's just, things are not in favor. Older things, used things are just not in favor. You have to be willing to understand that. I'm sorry that I'm the lower of your expectations, but I do know all the places in town. I know the places I would go, I know the places I wouldn't go. And I'm not gonna tell you about those unless you wanna call and talk to me about it. But there are wonderful places in town to go. And Elizabeth Stewart is a great starting place, especially if you have very high-end pieces. You want her to come in low. But just because something gets appraised for a value does not mean that you're gonna find a buyer to pay that money. And that's a really important bit of information. You just can't have those expectations. Just because Elizabeth says something's $200,000 does not mean you're gonna get that kind of money for it.
No, you're right, and I think that's the hardest part, and that's the biggest point that ties everything to what you said, is because it's very emotional.
It's
Sometimes
very
people
emotional.
think that things are of value, and there's a personal value, and so that's hard when people go, well, I know it's worth this much, and to your point, it's like, okay, well, then find the buyer, because that's the hard part, the match.
Exactly, which is why I was suggesting we amortize. Amortize the enjoyment you got out of it. And don't look back at what your stuff is. Look forward at what your new life is, because it's really about your relationships, and it's really about your connections and the next things that you go through, the next meal that you have with your friends or your family. It's really about that. It's not about looking back on how much you spent on something or how much something is worth or how much it was worth 10 years ago. It's not. We're only here for a short time. And it's really about our experiences.
To his point, when about 16 years ago, my dad died, and they had a home I'm from Maine, and my mother and father had a lot of antiques, roll top desks, old pistol, really nice. And my sister and I went through, and we called this gentleman that was this well-known appraiser in Portland, Maine. He had done some work for Martha Stewart and other folks, and he came through, and we paid him item by item of my parents' antiques. And we kids wanted items before. And he said what each item was worth, and it came to about $25,000, $30,000 in the place. And then he said, this is the auction company you want. So then the auctioneer came, and instead of saying, I'll give you a back amount for all of it, he came through, and we made, probably the time, this was 16 years ago, about that much. I mean, that was at the time, and that was when they had a lot of oak furniture, and now they say oak brown is down, but it was totally worth it to pay him his fee, the appraiser. And one item she had was this little wooden box. She thought it was a sewing box from her sister from a camp in Connecticut. And he said, oh, this is quite nice. And it was a child's toy box, and it was something like, $800. And my mother just used it to sew. And it was a child's toy box. But we wouldn't have known that item. So that at the time was very worth it. an appraiser come in, look at item to item, and then they might have an auction company, and you wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
Now, nowadays, items like that, who knows, this was 16 years ago, but we felt at the time it was totally worth it, and then he had the auctioneer come in. And my father had a lot of old tools in the barn, these tools went for a lot, oriented carpets, things like that. An old ice chest refrigerator, but, yeah, my mother was thrilled. But now,
Also,
yeah,
you have to consider that's Maine, that's the East Coast. And I actually just had to give away to donate a beautiful old icebox. Given away to donate pianos, and they don't wanna take them.
and nowadays, some of those things are not worth, they've gone down in the years.
Well, here, it's just not, in the oak and heavy furniture, it's just not, and I'm sorry to lower your expectations, but I just have to.
And I'm sure it's the same on these things have gone.
Well, on the East Coast, they're definitely still a thing, definitely.
But to say to him, I would get two different people, not have
Yeah.
someone come and say, oh, I'll give you 1,000 for all of it, it's, okay.
If you find someone that gives you any money for your stuff like that, like gives you a lump sum, I want their number because I don't think that they exist.
No, they are, there's people here like the antique wall do it, and there's different ways that they do it, but
They'll pick little
they'll pick,
pieces and they'll
do
give you
the
like a
things,
buck.
they'll find the
for
bigger
the whole
things, I mean, it's a business, they have a business too, and their business is, I wanna pay as little as I possibly can, and your business is, I wanna make as much as I possibly can.
Well, the appraiser said what each item was worth, we wrote it down, and then he sent it out, okay, so we at least knew we weren't getting the
Sounds like you had some really special pieces though.
Yeah, and then that's an appraiser, that's their job, and not any one appraiser will be able to tell you everything, no appraiser can. Sorry, I didn't mean to, I'm very supportive of Karen, because I know what she does, and it takes a lot of energy and a lot of effort, and it's not every case is the same, and people, unless you do it, you have no idea what goes into it, so kudos to you.
Thank you so much, Jessica. It was really nice to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time. One last question and then we should probably wrap it up because
I just wanted to know in general, when you put things to consignment, is there sort of an accepted length of time that it's gonna take them to move it? Or could it be 2 weeks to 2 years and?
yeah, that's a good question.
Catch.
And that is not my bailiwick. However, I am quite familiar with the paperwork of moving Miss Daisy consignment, which is at the Sears store. And if you are thinking about consigning things there, you should read their documents for the specifics. But yes, it's about however long it takes them to get it on the floor is day one. And then I think after 12 days, the price goes down. And then after another 12 days, the price goes down. And then at a certain point, then the item goes off. And either you go pick it up and they're not gonna notify you necessarily. And you go pick it up or you just leave it there and then they'll either donate it or whatever they do with it. So it's probably about 3 months. And they're moving a lot of stuff out of that store. So, and then there's other consignment stores and they have their own policies in town. I deal a lot with Miss Daisy. So, thank you so much, everyone. I can't believe how great you listened to me and thought it was cool, and it was great to have this opportunity to talk to you all.
A couple of things before your order process, and thank you, Karen, that was really just terrific. Keep in mind, a lot of it was focused about when you move to your next house. You can also start, that's not the primary reason of having the seminar. The seminar was downsizing where you are, or if you choose to move to their own house. Because it's really nice staying where you are and just decluttering your lives. I've been going through my house, cupboard by cupboard, drawer by drawer. What I do, this is what I do because it can be so overwhelming, okay? I don't live in a real big house. So for me, it's really overwhelming to think about all the things and all the cupboards and all the closets that I have to do. So the game that I play with myself is I write down everything that I have to do on little pieces of paper. And then I stick them in a bowl. And then I draw. It's so simple, but it works for me, and I allow myself three redos throughout the day. So if I don't want to do it right there, I put it back in the bowl and I draw another one. I can do that up to 3 times in a day. And so it works for me. So whatever works for you. Karen is a great resource. You don't have to do it all yourself, whether you're staying where you are or whether you're moving somewhere else. So keep that in mind. Couple of things I want to talk about before we do our door prizes here. Next month's seminar, and thank you all for coming. I hope the first timers really got a lot out of it. Next month's seminar, I have to cancel. I'm sorry. That makes me feel so good. Every